Peter Richardson is with us this morning, and no exception with his film, How to Die in Oregon. A subject, I swear, so many of us probably don't ever want to have to broach with a family member, but sometimes it's necessary, especially when there's a terminal illness involved. Peter, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, I mean, what else can you say about the film except wow? It's really, it's a tough subject, but you just beautifully are going to lay this out for everybody. Tell us about the film and how you embarked on such a topic that's really kind of difficult.
Yeah. So in 1994, Oregon was the first state to legalize physician-assisted suicide. We were actually only the fourth state in the world, or the fourth place in the world to legalize it. And the film itself tells the story of terminally ill Oregonians as they decide when and whether to use this life-ending medication. So I'm actually from Oregon. I've lived there most of my life. And so I spent the last 4 years basically making this film, telling the stories of terminally ill Oregonians, you know, as they confront these end-of-life decisions and, you know, whether they're going to take this medication, how to get their family on board, how to say goodbye to their friends and family, and all these very, very complex decisions.
And it is a very tough decision. I mean, I think a lot of people, we heard so much about it. We were talking earlier. I think the biggest thing that everyone knows when it comes to quote-unquote physician-assisted deaths is Kevorkian. Dr. Kevorkian, what happened. But this is nothing like that. It's not even close to
This is a very different face on that idea. You know, there is this notion of Jack Kevorkian as kind of being the face of assisted suicide, if you will. Certainly in the 90s, he was very much the face of it. And you know, when people think of Jack Kevorkian, they think of a very polarizing figure. They think of needles, for instance. But Oregon's law is much different in the sense that the medicine has to be self-administered. It's actually kind of a solution that a person drinks. And I think that the people who are using it are much like you or I, or people we might know. You know, it's a much more kind of a mainstream issue, if you will, in the state, and the film kind of communicates that.
This is a mom, a 54-year-old mom, 2 children, a husband, and she makes the decision because of her terminal illness to end her life. And you follow her, and you were there every day with she and her family, weren't you?
Yeah. So this is Cody Curtis. She was 54 years old, like you say, wife and mother of 2 children in their 20s. And about 2 years into making the film, I met Cody and her family. And I filmed with her and her family for the last 10 months of her life, basically. And this scene you just saw happened kind of during this golden summer she has. She actually is given a terminal diagnosis. She's told that she only has 6 months to live, and that she outlives that diagnosis. And this scene happens kind of during the summer where she's outlived this diagnosis, and she has to kind of wrestle with these choices of how much longer am I going to live? You know, how do I spend these days that I have left? What she's talking about there, she's planting a garden for her family and her friends to enjoy. And really the film kind of traces that journey that she goes on until she finally has to decide, you know, whether to take this medication at the end.
It's like, you know what, that is just so amazing that you were able, I mean, what a privilege, I would think, to be able to be allowed at such a very special time. But at the same time, I would imagine for the family, you know, I don't know, rather than having a sudden death versus having a day and a time that you know what's going to happen, I guess there's more preparation that would be allowed, and the family would probably be able to deal a little bit better knowing that.
I think that having the medication did force them to address a lot of these thoughts and really issues in the family that otherwise you might not have to address. You know, Cody actually kept the medication, you see in the film, she kept the medication in her nightstand, right next to her, you know, where she slept every night. So it's always there, it's always a reminder for her of, you know, this impending death. And Cody even talked about feeling like she was a dead woman walking, you know, having this medication, knowing that she had this terminal disease, but also still being alive and with her family. So it was, I think it was a very powerful thing for her family. I think it was also something that, you know, Cody found it very difficult ultimately to choose to take the medication, whether to take it.
I can imagine.
It wasn't an easy choice.
I can imagine it wasn't easy.